This is a day to talk about the positive work that's going on to reinvent Michigan, but how that work's not done, and how it's not just what goes on in Michigan that's going to make a difference, but what goes on in Washington. And that has to be about teamwork. Because if you look at our state, we are coming back. We are reinventing our state. We're focused on jobs and our kids. And one of the key things we're doing to make sure that happens is being fiscally responsible. And being fiscally responsible is a lot more than simply cash in and cash out or short-term actions. It's having a new mindset to say it's not thinking about just today, but thinking about dealing with those problems of the past where we've let liabilities grow far too large, and thinking about our kids and what legacy we're going to leave them. And that we need to be financially responsible just not for the moment, but to clean up the past and to create that great environment for our children in the future. And I'm proud to say we're focused on that in Michigan, and we're showing good results. And the easy illustration is our budget. Going into this year, Michigan had a rainy day fund that had a whole 30 minutes of revenue in it. We could run the state for 30 minutes. What did we do with our budget, which we got done in the fastest in the last 30 years? Is we did a fiscally sound, balanced budget. No accounting gimmicks, not using one-time funds to balance out 2012, and actually making payments on long-term liabilities. And you can see the results of that. We had one of the bond rating agencies actually upgrade their outlook on us from neutral to positive. And that's only the start. It's really the jobs that are going to be created that are going to make a difference out of that. But then you say, it's not just a loan. It's about being in partnership with the other levels of government. And we've got a good relationship with local government. But we need the federal government to be part of that process. And that's been illustrated more than ever most recently with the problem on the national debt ceiling. That's been a disaster. And that's not being fiscally responsible. So there are certain times in history where you have the right person at the right moment, where you have the kind of leadership you need to step up to take on very tough questions. And there's far more than just the national debt ceiling that needs to get resolved in Washington, but it's an illustration of a starting point. And to do that, we need the best. And that's why I'm proud to be here today to endorse Pete Hoekstra for U.S. Senate. And it's a great opportunity because Pete's a person that through the campaign process I gained a lot of respect for and a recognition that he is the right person for this position. If you look at his track record, he is a true fiscal conservative. I mean, this guy even slept on his couch in his office. In terms of saving us dollars. But if you look at it, that it's more than that. In terms of the message, the thought process, the combination of experience, from his experience in Washington being a leader and being a fiscal conservative, to his business experience. It's a great combination. The other thing I would add, though, is when you campaign against someone, it's one of those cases you really get to learn who you're working with and who you're out there with. And Pete's a person of the highest integrity, and I consider him a friend. So it's a great opportunity to say we have a situation now in Washington where we have a broken system. We need to reinvent Washington, our country. And to do that, we need the right kind of leaders. And we have one of those people right here in Michigan. And so that's where I'm proud to have the opportunity to say, Pete, go get them. I'm with you. Let's make this happen. Let's reinvent Washington too.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for those kind words and that endorsement. It's very much appreciated. Also, thank you for leaving me one other introduction. My wife, Diane, here, providing me with the opportunity to introduce Diane. All these other folks are also very, very special. But Diane's, as anybody who's involved with politics knows, and Governor, as you know, you can't move forward in a campaign without having a great partner through this process, whether it's going through a campaign or whether it's actually getting into the governing business. You know, the governor is absolutely right. We need to reinvent Michigan. We need to reinvent Washington, D.C. We've had a great start here in the state, but for prosperity and opportunity to come back to the state of Michigan, we need to recognize that there needs to be a partnership with Washington, D.C. A partnership in terms of philosophy. And the governor has laid out the principles that I have fought for and will continue to fight for. Fiscal discipline. You know, I was part of the budget committee in the 1990s with Governor, now a colleague of Governor Snyder, John Kasich, where we outlined a path to fiscal responsibility. You know, we restrained spending, we reformed government, and we cut taxes. And the end result is, by the tough decisions, and they were hard. Some of you may remember that back during that period, government actually shut down for a period of days. But we sent the clear message that said we are going to be serious about fiscal reform and fiscal discipline, and we ended up balancing the budget for 4 years. We went through a process of reforming government. We reformed welfare. We got to do the same thing in Washington again today. We do have to reform entitlements. They're a legacy cost on this generation and future generations, but they're also a legacy cost in terms of the impact that they will have on economic growth and opportunity. We need to reform the relationship between Washington and the states. You know, I spent a lot of time working on education. I believe that education decisions are best made by parents, local school districts, and by the state. I fought hard against my presidents, all of our presidents, but one that I helped elect, George Bush, is No Child Left Behind, because I thought it was a massive expansion of the federal government's role in K through 12 education. It was exactly the wrong thing to do. I not only fought the president, I fought educational interest and all of those types of things, but 10 years later we found out that voting no on that bill was the right thing to do. Go talk to your local superintendents. Actually, go talk to the Michigan Education Association. And what they will tell you is that they want control of education back in the state. They want this governor setting the direction for education in this state. They want control at the local level and the parental level. Why? Because once again, Washington promised what? They said, we're going to give you a bucket of money. And what everybody thought about and focused on was the bucket of money, and they forgot about the rules and the regulations. What they found is that they got a bucket of rules and regulations, and they got a small little pail of money, not nearly enough to pay for the loss of control that states had. And you can do that with education. You can reform education. You can do that with Medicaid, a program that the governor and I have talked about. Why does Michigan believe that getting 93 cents back on the dollar is a good deal for our gas tax? A good deal and a fair deal is that the money never leaves the state. The money just stays here. Same thing with a lot of things with regulatory reform. You know, I very much appreciate the leadership that the governor has provided at the state. I very much appreciate the endorsement that he has given to me, but I think more importantly to the ideas that I bring to this campaign and the energy and the philosophy that I'll bring to Washington, D.C., because he and I believe that with those kinds of principles and those kinds of policies in place in Washington, D.C., we can achieve what both of us and all of us in this room want to achieve. We want to bring prosperity, we want to bring opportunity, and we want to bring accountability, prosperity and opportunity back to the people of Michigan, and accountability back to government. That's why we're here. That's why the governor... That's why the governor ran for governor. He ran a really good race. He ran a really good race. But as he said, we were able to go through that process. And at the end of that process, isn't it great that two people can go through a campaign, they can go through a primary, and at the end of that result, at the end of that process, they actually like each other, they actually have respect for each other because they went through it in a way that the people of Michigan respected the process and how we treated us. It's the kind of thing that the voters should expect out of each and every campaign. It is how we will run the Senate campaign. It is how we will run the primary, and it's how we will run to contrast, my philosophy against the results of our current Senator Debbie Stabenow. There are two very, very There are two very, very different visions for America, different visions for Washington, and we will bring out that stark contrast, and we will do it in a way that will be dignified and will show our respect for the voters of Michigan. Thanks to all of you for being here. It's 14 months. We're going to work hard. We're going to need all of your help, but I really do believe that we can be successful and we can start reinventing Washington at the same time as reinvention in Michigan continues. Thank you very much.